Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Tuesday, November 30th, 2021, the last day of November already. Wow. All right. We'll recap last night's Monday Night Football game between the Seahawks and the Washington Professional Football Team, NBA, NHL, college basketball from last night, and we'll look ahead to everything tonight. We have an MLS playoff game to look forward to tonight as well to make that pick. News and notes. Hit or miss, we're going to do the 2020 NBA draft edition of that and my best bet of the day. All right, we'll start with Monday Night Football. It was about as ugly as a game that you'll see in primetime, that's for sure. A lot of these primetime games have been not pretty of late. I guess it just cancels out the great games that we were spoiled with from earlier in the year. So, the Washington Professional Football Team defeats the Seahawks 17-15 as Washington is now in sole possession or in that wild card spot. That last wild card spot in the NFC now belongs to the Washington Professional Football Team. Before the year, if you told me there were two teams from the NFC East to make the playoffs, I thought you would have been out of your mind. But here we are. Two NFC East teams in playoff spots right now. And the NFC East race is far from done. Like, they're two back of the Cowboys, and they have to play them. I think they have to play them twice, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think the Cowboys and the football team have played each other yet this year. So, that's going to be interesting. Taylor Heineke and company. And in Seattle, 3-8. Poor Russell Wilson, man. 20-31, 247 yards and 2 touchdowns. Taylor Heineke, 27-35, 223 yards, a touchdown and an interception. But yeah, big win for Washington to get themselves in that wild card spot. And even teams like the Giants are not out of it yet, amazingly enough. And some of these other teams that are 4-7, like the Bears, like all it has to take is a if a 9-8 finish can do it. And I think there is going to be like a 9-8 team in both conferences for wild cards, amazingly enough. So, a really weird game. And then, obviously, 2 days from now is Cowboys-Saints and a lot of turmoil within the Cowboys organization with COVID and whatnot. So, looking forward to Week 13 come Thursday. All right, we'll move on now to the NBA. A lot of results from last night that we have to look upon, and we will look ahead to a short window for tonight, but some very good games, to say the least. 76ers over the Magic, 101-96. Sixers are 11-10. Orlando, 4-18. Nuggets over the Heat, 120-111. Nuggets, 10-10. Miami, 13-8. Bulls over the Hornets, 133-119. Chicago, 14-8. Charlotte, 13-10. Rockets over the Thunder, 102-89. Rockets, 4-16. Oklahoma City, 6-14. Timberwolves over the Pacers, 198. Wolves, 11-10. Indiana, 9-14. Cavs over the Magic, 114-96. The Cavs, 11-10. Dallas, 10-9. Spurs over the Wizards, 116-99. The Spurs, 6-13. Washington, 13-8. Jazz over the Trailblazers, 129-107. The Jazz, 14-7. Portland, 10-11. Pelicans over the Clippers, 123-104. Pelicans, 6-17. The Clippers are 11-10. This is, if Jonas Valanciunas didn't have that career game, then this game wouldn't have been this lopsided of a result. All right, 5 games tonight. The first of the 2 on TNT is a great one. Knicks-Nets from the Barclays Center. I project this line to be Brooklyn by 5 3/4, total 213.7, and this line is 7 and 216.5. I'm going to take the under. The Knicks, I think, have found their defensive identity. And they took Kemba Walker out of the rotation. We'll get more on that in news and notes. But their defense is better when Kemba Walker is not on the court. So under 216.5 is the play. Grizzlies, Raptors. My projection for this game with no John Morant is the Raptors by 5, total 219-45. And it is 5.5 and 219.5. Very close numbers. But I have a slight edge to Memphis, so I'll take them plus 5.5. And it's a slight lean to the Grizzlies in this spot. The nightcap on TNT. Game of the early season so far between the Warriors and the Suns. Good God, this is where you would miss Marv Albert for a big game for TNT. You would think that Kevin Harlan's going to get this game in an Iron Eagle, get the knick-knack game. My projection for this game is Phoenix by 5.5, total 216. Meanwhile, it's 2 and 222. So I have a big edge on the under and a big edge on the Suns. The question is, where do I go? I am going to go with the under because I think that Golden State and the Suns have played really good defense so far to start the season. So I really do like the under. The Pistons and the Trailblazers. My projection for this game with no Norman Powell for Portland is the Blazers by 12.5, total of 214-25. Meanwhile, Portland is giving 9.5, totals 215.5. I'm going to lay the 9.5 with the Trailblazers here. And then last but not least, the Lakers and the Kings at 10 o'clock as well. My projection for this game is the Lakers by 3.5, total 224-35. Meanwhile, it's 4.5 and 226.5. So I actually do have a real edge on the under. So this is like an under kind of day for the picks of the podcast for the NBA on this final day of November. All right, now we'll move on to the NHL. I'm going to recap last night's short window, and then tonight is a larger window of games. Kraken over the Sabres 7-4. The Kraken 8-13-1. Buffalo 8-11-3. Canucks over the Canadiens 2-1. The Canucks 7-14-2. Montreal 6-16-2. Coyotes over the Jets 1-0. The Coyotes in this game were like plus 330 to win this game outright. And here we are, 5-15-2 on the year. And Winnipeg 10-8-4. Flames over the Penguins 2-1 in the shootout. This was a great game. Calgary 13-4-5. Pittsburgh 10-7-5. All right, bigger window for tonight. 7 o'clock, you have the Red Wings and the Bruins from TD Garden. Boston is minus 240. Detroit's plus 195. Over under 5.5, minus 110 each way. Detroit plus 1.5 is minus 130. Boston minus 1.5 is plus 106. I'm going with the Red Wings straight up here. They're playing well, and Alex Nedeljkovic is playing great. I just don't like what I've seen from Boston. So you would think that Boston might be in on Matt Murray. So give me Detroit plus 195 in TD Garden. The Capitals and the Panthers. The Panthers are minus 137. Caps are plus 114. Over under 6. Overs minus 114. Unders minus 106. Caps plus 1.5 is minus 220. Florida minus 1.5 is plus 176. I like how the Caps are playing. They're in first place in the division. They're red hot, and I'm taking them here to win outright, plus 114. Sharks, Devils. The Devils are minus 140. The Sharks are plus 116. Over under 5.5, minus 110 each way. Sharks plus 1.5 is minus 215. Devils minus 1.5 is plus 172. I'm going to continue the dog trend. Plus 116 on the Sharks. Islanders, Flyers postponed due to the Islanders' COVID situation. 8 o'clock, Lightning, Blues. Lightning are minus 105. The Blues are minus 114. Over under 5.5. Overs minus 118. Unders minus 104. Bolts plus 1.5 is minus 300. Blues minus 1.5 is plus 235. I'm surprised the Blues are a favorite here. But I'm going to lay to minus 114 here with them to beat the Lightning. Blue Jackets, Predators. The Preds are minus 164. Columbus plus 136. Over under 5.5. Overs minus 114. Unders minus 106. Blue Jackets plus 1.5 is minus 205. Nashville minus 1.5 is plus 164. I'm going to go under 5.5 at minus 106 for this game. Coyotes, Wild. Wild minus 375. The Coyotes are plus 290. Over under 6. Overs even money. Unders minus 122. Coyotes plus 1.5 is plus 118. Wild minus 1.5 is minus 144. This is crazy. But I'm going to actually do a risky play because it's at plus money, and that's the Coyotes puck line, plus 1.5 at plus 118, just to keep it within 1. If not, they can win the game outright. 8:30, the Hurricanes and the Stars. There's a pick 'em over under 5.5, overs even money, others minus 122. Carolina minus 1.5 is plus 205. Dallas plus 1.5 is minus 260. Dallas is starting to come along a little bit here. I'm going to actually take them at home, minus 110, and a pick 'em against the Carolina Hurricanes. And last but not least, 10:30 from the Staples Center, Ducks, Kings. The Kings are minus 120. The Ducks are even money, over under 5.5. Overs minus 104, unders minus 118. Ducks plus 1.5 is minus 225. Kings minus 1.5 is plus 180. I'm taking the Ducks at even money. I think the disrespect of the Ducks is ridiculous. They're playing well. And where things stand at the moment, they're third in the Pacific Division. So I'm going to take Anaheim at even money against the Los Angeles Kings. All right, now we'll move on to college basketball. We are going to recap all the results from yesterday, and we will look ahead to today's games. Norfolk over Grambling, 70-63. Norfolk 8-1, Grambling 2-5. App State over Hartford, 69-59. App State 4-4, Hartford 0-6. Number 9, Kentucky over Central Michigan, 85-57. Kentucky 6-1, Central 1-5. Buffalo over Point Park, 94-49. Buffalo's now 4-2. Gardner-Webb over NC Central, 83-58. Gardner-Webb 4-3, NC Central 2-5. Lafayette over Columbia, 73-50. Lafayette 2-4, Columbia 2-5. Iowa over Virginia, 75-74 in Big Ten ACC Challenge. Iowa 7-0, Virginia 5-3. BC over South Florida, 64-49. BC 5-3, South Florida 3-3. Cornell over Canisius, 89-75. Cornell 6-1, Canisius 2-5. Niagara over Colgate, 70-59. Niagara 3-3. Colgate 3-4. Toledo over Northwest Ohio, 106-36. Toledo's now 6-1. Missouri over Paul Quinn, 91-59. Mizzou 4-3 now. South Alabama over A&M Commerce, 69-66. USA is 6-2. Murray State over Campbellsville, 98-61. Murray State 6-1. UTSA over St. Mary, 75-65. UTSA is 5-3. TCU over Austin Peay, 68-51. TCU 5-1. Austin Peay 3-3. Vandy over Miss Valley State, 75-36. Vandy 5-1. Miss Valley State 0-4. Oral Roberts over Tulsa 87-80. Oral 4-3. Tulsa 4-3. Houston Baptist over Southwestern Adventist 162. Houston Baptist is now 2-4. Abilene Christian over Shriner 88-47. ACU is 3-2. Number 7 Texas over Sam Houston 73-57. Texas 5-1. Sam Houston State 2-5. Morgan State over Hampton 60-47. Morgan State 3-5. Hampton 2-6. Pine Bluff over Baptist of Arkansas 75-70. Pine Bluff gets their first win. They're 1-7. Utah State over Carroll, Montana 93-63. Utah State is 6-1. Texas Arlington over Santa Barbara 70-62. Texas Arlington 2-5. Santa Barbara 3-2. Illinois over Notre Dame 82-72. So best bet was a winner. Illinois 5-2. Notre Dame 3-3. Number 3 Gonzaga over Tarleton 64-55. Gonzaga 7-1. Tarleton 1-6. Oregon over Montana 87-47. Oregon 4-3, Montana 4-3, Wyoming over Cal State Fullerton 79-66, Wyoming 6-0, Fullerton 3-4, Grand Canyon over Loyola Marymount 78-72, Canyon 6-1, Marymount 4-3, and St. Mary's over UC Riverside 67-60, St. Mary's 7-1, and Riverside 5-3. Now we look ahead to a larger slate tonight at 5 o'clock. You have Butler hosting Saginaw Valley, we can skip that. 6:30, Radford Oaks, Kentucky Christian, we can skip that. 7 o'clock, SEC Network, number 13, Tennessee hosts Presbyterian. My projection is Tennessee by 21.5. And now it is the line here, Tennessee. I don't see it on FanDuel. I'm going to check DraftKings now to see if they have it. Yes, 24 and 130. I'm going to take Presbyterian in the points. CBS Sports Network, Maryland Eastern at number 17, UConn. My projection is UConn by 43.25. And it is 32.5 and 133.5. I'm going to lay the points with UConn. Point Park, Kent State, and Summit VMI we could skip. Chattanooga, Tennessee Tech. My projection is Chattanooga by 7.75. And Chattanooga's giving 5.5 totals, 132.5. I'm going to lay the 5.5 with Chattanooga. Furman High Point. My projection is Furman 10.5. And it's 7.5 and 140.5. I'm going to lay the 7.5 with Furman. Lancaster Bible College, Campbell, we can skip. Howard and Mount St. Mary's. I project for this game Mount St. Mary's by 6. And it's 2.5 and 136.5. I'm going to lay the 2.5 in Mount St. Mary's. Detroit and Northeastern. My projection for this game is Northeastern by 13. And it's 5.5 and 135.5. I'm going to lay the 5.5 at Northeastern. Alon and UNC Greensboro. My projection is Greensboro by 8.25. And it's 5.5 and 126.5. I'm going to lay the points. LIU and Delaware. My projection is Delaware 19.25. And it is 10.5 and 152.5. I'm going to lay the points with Delaware. Longwood, Georgetown. My projection is Georgetown 6.5. And it's 9.5 and 134.5. I'm going to take Longwood plus the points. Old Dominion in East Carolina. My projection for this game is ECU by 3.5. And it's 5.5 and 127.5. And I'm going to take Old Dom plus the 5.5 here. New Orleans and Texas A&M. My projection for this game is A&M by 15.5. And it's 16.5 totals, 136.5. I'll take the over. Davidson and Charlotte. My projection here is Davidson by 3/4. And it's 4.5 and 131.5. I'm taking Charlotte plus the 4.5. I think they can win the game outright too. They're plus 180. Sacred Heart and NJIT. My projection here is NJIT by 8.25. And Vegas Insider. NJIT and Sacred Heart. Let's see. It's 4 and 135. So I'm going to lay the 4 with NJIT. Big game, Indiana-Syracuse from the Carrier Dome on ESPN2. Big Ten ACC Challenge. My projection is Syracuse by 2. And Syracuse is getting 2.5 totals, 147.5. I'm taking it Syracuse plus the 2.5 and plus 118 straight up. Minnesota Pitt on ESPNU. Big Ten ACC Challenge. My projection, Minnesota by 1 3/4. And Minnesota is giving 2.5 totals, 128.5. I'm going to take the over. Bellarmine in West Virginia. My projection is West Virginia by 15 3/4. And the Mountaineers are giving 16.5 totals 140.5. I'll take the over. Siena Army. My projection for this game is Army 14.5, and it's 5.5. I'm going to lay the points. Fairleigh Dickinson Manhattan. My projection is Manhattan by 11, and it's 10. Total is 138.5. Honestly, I like the under. 7:30 ESPN. Florida State against number 2 Purdue. My projection is Purdue by 3. And Purdue is giving a whopping 11. I'm taking Florida State plus the 11. That is a lot. Like, that's way too high. Tulane and Charleston. My projection is Charleston by 0.5. And Charleston's giving 3.5. Totals 148.5. I'm taking Tulane plus the 3.5. Rider Ole Miss. My projection is Ole Miss by 15. And Ole Miss is giving 15. Totals 134.5. I'm going to take the over. Northwestern State and Houston. My projection is Houston by 29.5. I should say number 15 ranked Houston. And it's 32.5 and 138.5. I'm going to take Northwestern State plus the points. Rhodes College, Western Kentucky, Mississippi College, Sanford. We can skip. Texas State, Rice. My projection is Rice by 1 3/4, and it is 2.5 and 140.5. I'll take. Ooh, I like the under. Prairie View and South Dakota State. My projection is South Dakota State by a whopping 18.5. And it's 16.5. Totals 160.5. I'm going to lay the points of South Dakota State. SIU, Edwardsville, and Omaha. My projection is Omaha by 1. And Edwardsville's giving 1.5. Totals 134.5. I'm taking Omaha plus 1.5 and plus 108 straight up. Presentation, North Dakota, Bethesda College, Dixie State. We can skip those. Next up, I have Jackson State and Marquette. My projection for this game, by the way, 9 o'clock CBS Sports Network. Marquette 14 3/4, and I have Marquette on FanDuel 17.5 and 135.5. I'm going to take Jackson State and the points. Next up, St. Louis and Boise State. My projection is St. Louis by 7 3/4. And it's Boise by 3.5. Totals 136. Oh my God, wrong team favored. Taking St. Louis plus 3.5 and plus 134 on the money line. New Mexico and New Mexico State. My projection State by 18, and it's State by 11.5. Totals 146.5. I'm laying it with State. Hawaii, Santa Clara. My projection is Santa Clara 10 1/4. And it is 11.5 and 144.5. I like the over. Northwestern Wake. I have as my projection Wake by 3 1/4. And Wake is giving 1.5. Totals 143.5. I'm going to go with the over, but I don't feel good about it. Clemson, Rutgers. My projection is Rutgers by 5 1/4. And Rutgers is giving 1. Totals 127.5. I'm going to lay to 1 with Rutgers. North Dakota State and Creighton. My projection is Creighton by 5 3/4, and it's Creighton by 8. Totals 135.5. I'm taking North Dakota State and the points. That game's on FS2, by the way. Clemson, Rutgers, ESPN2. Northwestern Wake, ESPNU. And 9:30 on ESPN, game of the night, in my opinion, in college basketball. Number 1, Duke, Ohio State. My projection is Duke by 4 1/4. And Duke is favored by 3. Totals 146.5. I'm going to take the over. I'm glad that I don't have a side on this game. Rather have the total. South Dakota State, San Jose State at 10 o'clock. My projection for this game is San Jose State. Or wait a second. This projection's not right, I don't think. Hang on. Here we go. South Dakota by 9 3/4 is my projected line. I had a weird line. I did the math wrong, but why is San Jose State favored? Total's 138.5, and they're laying 1.5. I'm taking South Dakota plus the 1.5 and minus 105 and plus 110 straight up. Long Beach State and San Diego State. My projection for this game is San Diego State by 18. And it's 20.5 total is 135.5. I'm taking Long Beach plus the points. And last but not least, Pepperdine, Nevada. My projection is Nevada by 8, and it's Nevada 14.5, and total is 115.5. And I'm going to take Pepperdine plus the 14.5 to cover against Nevada. All right, now I'll move on to Major League Soccer. We have a playoff game tonight, and it's in the Eastern Conference. Eastern semifinals between New England and New York City Football Club. So this is the 4 versus the 1. I really think this has a chance to be a really good game. As the lines for this is New England minus 120, Football Club plus 270, draw plus 260. I'm going to actually go with the draw for regulation, but ultimately I think this will come down to the penalty kicks, and I think the New England will come out on top. I think the Revolution are the better team than the Football Club, so I'm going to go with the draw for an exciting finish. So plus 260 for the draw in that game, as I think New England will move on to play Philadelphia in the Eastern Conference Final. And obviously in the West, you have Portland and Salt Lake. So you have the 4 seed against the 7 seed. So I think this is wide open, baby. Like, it's there for the taking, because it's 4 versus 7, and it could be 2 versus 1. It could be 4 versus 2. So we'll see what happens tonight. Okay, news and notes time. A lot of stuff to get into today. Again, Major League Baseball free agency and college football dominate today. The breaking news coming down right now is that Javier Baez is signing with the Detroit Tigers, 6 years, $140 million. Some are saying 7 years, $140, but I have up here 6, $140. The Tigers were a team that I felt that had to do something this offseason to really get that fan base excited. You have one real contender in that division, the White Sox, who were kind of exposed in the playoffs against the Astros. And then after that, you have a lot of But the Tigers want to go away from They signed Eduardo Rodriguez, and now they signed Javier Baez. It's a good start, and they have a loaded farm system. They have the pieces to make a trade if necessary, so they get Baez. But I still wouldn't rule them out for Correa, because you wouldn't have thought that the Rangers were going to sign both Semien and Seager. I mean, I wouldn't put it past the Tigers to sign Correa too. I wouldn't rule them out for Correa. If Correa plays short and Baez plays second. But I think Baez wants to play short. So we're going to see what happens here. Some other baseball stuff. We talked about Corey Seager just a moment ago. He signs the mega deal, 10 years, $325 million with the Rangers. That's just monstrous. So Texas has him and Simeon locked up for the foreseeable future and more than the next half decade. And the Rangers are another team that I felt like needed to spend some money. And they're in a worse situation than the Tigers. They don't have a good farm system. And they just want it to get people excited. They're in a big market in Dallas, and I don't blame them for going out and making these two signings. I love the Seager signing. I'm not a big fan of the Simeon contract. I just don't think he's worth 7 years. I think Corey Seager's worth every penny of that contract. I think he's be a great player for the Rangers. I really do. The Mariners signed Robbie Ray, 5 years, $115 million. I love the signing for Seattle. I felt like they needed a pitcher to go with the young pitchers they have. And coming off the Cy Young, he cashes in big time. And the big headliner in terms of pitchers yesterday, really, Max Scherzer to the New York Mets. 3 years, $130 million. What a signing for the Mets. A very above average number 2 starter behind Jacob deGrom in this rotation. They signed him away from the rivals in the National League. I think Scherzer wanted to stay in the NL. I think he likes the East Coast. So, what a pickup for the Mets. I think that he could be a huge difference maker for them down the road. The Marlins acquired Jacob Stallings from the Pittsburgh Pirates for Zach Thompson and a couple of prospects. So the Pirates continue to cash in on assets for the future. And so the other prospects going to Pittsburgh in the deal were Kyle Nicholas and Connor Scott. Connor Scott, first-round pick, by the way. And then pitcher Zach Thompson. So the Marlins are going for it. Look at the NL East, man. You had the Marlins making this move and the signing of Avisail Garcia. The Mets signed Max Scherzer. You know the Phillies are going to do something. The Braves just won the World Series. And the Nationals. The question is, what do the Nationals do? I mean, do they continue to blow it up and reboot like they did at the trade deadline, or they try to go for it with what they have? But I don't really like what they have. And speaking of the Marlins and the Phillies, they're both eyeing Kyle Schwarber. And here's one that scratches my head. The New York Yankees are eyeing Isaiah Kiner-Falefa from the Rangers and acquiring them about a trade. The New York Yankees. I am speechless that they didn't sign Corey Seager. I thought he was going to go to the Yankees. Like, that just was perfect for them. Left-handed bat. Just a great all-around player. But no, Texas signs them to the mega deal. And who knows, maybe Seager did want to go for the money. I don't think anybody was matching that. I think the Yankees could have gone to $300 million, but they went that length for Garrett Cole. But I understand why they went for it with Garrett Cole, because they needed an ace at the time, and Cole was coming off a Cy Young worthy season. And you could argue pitching is more important to baseball nowadays than hitting, which I think it is. But Kiner-Falefa, really? He's a utility player that really isn't that good. The Yankees should be going for guys like Seager and Correa. And they're not. They're settling on like these little pieces. Like, it's like they become the Oakland Yankees rather than the New York Yankees. I mean, like, this is stuff that Jeff Wilpon would do with the Mets. Like, this is just insane. And, listen, Carlos Correa is still on the board. I'm not against Correa to the Yankees, but he's a right-handed bat, and the Yankees are full of right-handed bats. And that's why I prefer a left-handed bat. Maybe they're going for Matt Olson. You heard a lot of Matt Olson buzz. So maybe that's their big pickup in terms of a left-handed bat. And that's great. Matt Olson would be a great pickup, but they would have to give up a lot to get Matt Olson. But maybe it is going to be Correa. Or you heard a rumbling about Freddie Freeman, but I don't see how in the world he leaves the Atlanta Braves. Freddie Freeman's a better player than Corey Seager at this point, but he is not leaving Atlanta. I'd be stunned. It'd be like Albert Pujols leaving the Angels, which we saw, and Robinson Cano leaving the Yankees, which we saw. But why would Freddie Freeman leave the Braves? We'll see. But yeah, it's just not been a good start for the New York Yankees in the offseason. And the same could be said for the Boston Red Sox. I ripped the Michael Wacha signing yesterday. I think the AL East is off to a not-so-great start in the offseason as a whole. I mean, the Rays have, I think, done the best job because they locked up Wander Franco long-term, 12 years, $325 million or whatever. But that is fantastic that Tampa did that. And then I said yesterday on the show, I hate the Gossman signing for the Blue Jays. And they lose Marcus Semien. And they need a shortstop. Or a second baseman, my bad. Because they have a shortstop in Bo Bichette. They need a second baseman. So, Yankees, Blue Jays, Red Sox all off to, in my opinion, rough starts of the offseason. And I just think the Blue Jays just signed the wrong pitcher. I've said that on the show yesterday. So, yeah, there's my little rant on the AL East for the podcast. The big college football story from yesterday. Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame for LSU, 10 years, $95 million. Jeez. I mean, what a hire for LSU. Just another rock star coach in that conference to join Nick Saban and Kirby Smart. You knew LSU was going to go big and bold for this hire, and they sure did with Ryan Kelly. They want to make competition with USC on the opposite side of the country with making splashes. But what a hire, and what a tremendous loss for Notre Dame. And now another marquee job opens. But here's my point. Brian Kelly, isn't Notre Dame in theory a more of a marquee job than LSU? I understand the intrigue of being in the SEC and that LSU won a national title 2 years ago. But Notre Dame is Notre Dame. That's a special school. And you leave Notre Dame. But yeah, Notre Dame, not a good day for Notre Dame. But meanwhile, they have a pool of head coaches to choose from. And I don't see them hiring somebody off of Brian Kelly's staff. I think that offensive coordinator Tommy Rees could be in play for this position. There are some other coaches around college football that I think could be in play. Jimmy Chadwell, maybe. But is the job too big for him? That's my biggest fear of Bill Napier in Florida. I think the job might be too big for him. We saw it prove true with Steve Sarkisian at USC, and he's trying to redeem himself at Texas, but that's not off to a good start. We saw that with Lane Kiffin. Oh, Lane Kiffin! Is that your next LSU or Notre Dame coach? They're talking about Lane Kiffin going to LSU. I mean, will it be Jimbo Fisher? I think that Notre Dame should be looking at names like that. But yeah, I just had an idea in my head about Notre Dame coach. Mike Leach, would he leave Mississippi State already after 2 years to go there? Would Chip Kelly leave UCLA to go to Notre Dame? How about Mario Cristobal? I think he's done a good job at Oregon. Kyle Whittingham at Utah. Michigan State just locked up Mel Tucker. Penn State just locked up James Franklin. So we have Oklahoma open too. And some of these names I'm tossing out for Notre Dame could be in play for Oklahoma, but more likely the East, the coastal coach rather than for Oklahoma rather than some of these other larger names that I'm mentioning. Bob Stoops. I think that's cool that he's going to be the intern coach for the bowl game. But will Cale Gundy become the coach? That'd be really cool if Cale Gundy became the coach at Oklahoma, because his brother's obviously Mike Gundy of Oklahoma State. Would Dave Aranda leave Baylor to go to Oklahoma? But yeah, I'm just spitballing names right now. I think a hot coach on the market's going to be Luke Fickell at Cincinnati. I think that I like Kalen DeBoer, but he was just hired at Washington, which I think is an excellent hire for them. I think, and somebody else that really I think has boosted his reputation this year is Mike Houston at East Carolina. I think he did an excellent job this season. Another one that I need to mention is Brady Hoke. I think he's done amazing at San Diego State. And obviously he used to coach Michigan. He was an intern for Tennessee. But I think Brady Hoke has really fixed his reputation, so maybe he'll be in play for one of these jobs as well. And LSU made the announcement for Brian Kelly. And then the Lincoln Riley thing with USC came together quick, apparently. They talked Sunday, and then Riley found out about the interest late Saturday night. And then Riley says that USC is to be the mecca of college football. This place is going to be full. This place is going to be the mecca of college football, he says. And that's what USC should be. USC should be the mecca, or one of the meccas of the sport. And so should Notre Dame. I mean, I am just stunned that Brian Kelly left. I think if you asked me who was more likely to leave their job, Brian Kelly or Lincoln Riley, I would have said Lincoln Riley, and I would have thought for sure it would have been for the Dallas Cowboys and not USC, though. Oh, Urban Meyer. Would he leave the Jaguars for Notre Dame? I just spitballing out. Or for Oklahoma? I mean, that's one to watch. You got to watch out for Urban Meyer because that's going very poorly in Jacksonville. Mike McCarthy, speaking of coaches, won't coach Thursday Night Football due to a positive COVID test. Dalvin Cook missed at least the next 2 games with a shoulder injury, with hopes to return Week 15 for Minnesota. It's a big loss for them, but Alexander Madison has proven time and time again that he could do the job. Deebo Samuel missed 1 to 2 weeks with a groin injury, and Fred Warner out again with a hamstring injury. Darren Waller week to week with the knee injury. DeAndre Swift likely to miss Week 13 due to his shoulder injury from Thanksgiving. Aaron Rodgers won't get toe surgery. Chris McCaffrey out for the season for the second year in a row due to an ankle injury. Just brutal for the Panthers. They signed him to that big money extension, and all he is injured. And now if you're the Giants with Saquon Barkley, it's going to have to make you wonder. And the Browns with Nick Chubb's the other one. It's going to have to make you think and wonder. Christian McCaffrey was the best running back in football 2 years ago, and now he's always injured. And now it's going to want to make you reevaluate. And maybe they could... I think Chubb's a free agent. Or did they extend him? I don't remember. I'm going to look that up. And I know Saquon Barkley has the 5th-year option. I think the Giants could potentially trade Saquon Barkley in the offseason. And I think that they might get a second for him. But yeah, Chubb is on a contract extension. But maybe they look to trade Nick Chubb because they do have Kareem Hunt as well. Speaking of the Browns, Jack Conklin out for the season due to a patella tendon tear. Brutal for the Browns. Just brutal. Jags tight end Dan Arnold out 4 to 6 weeks with a grade 2 MCL sprain, so he's probably out for the season. NBA injuries, Jalen Suggs fractures his thumb. He'll be out for an extended period of time. Nikola Jokic came back against Miami. Meanwhile, Jimmy Butler sat against the Nuggets. Joe Harris to have surgery on his left ankle, so he's going to be out for a while. Michael Porter Jr. likely done for the season due to a back surgery. Just brutal. I feel bad for MPJ. He's just injured time and time again. And then that big money extension kicks in, I believe, next year. All right, so breaking college football news. Virginia Tech to hire Penn State defensive coordinator Brent Pry as their new head coach. I think Pry's done a good job under James Franklin's staff. This is a good opportunity for him in a Power 5 league in the ACC, so we'll see how he does. Big golf news. Tiger Dunn is a full-time golfer. He had a press conference, and he says he wants to return to the PGA Tour one day after accident, but play less events. I accept it, he says. And sad news in golf, Lee Edler dies at the age of 87, as he made history as the first black man to compete at the Masters. So thoughts and prayers to Edler and his family at this time. More NFL stuff. Cliff Kingsbury on Oklahoma rumors. He says he won't get into those things when asked about potential returning to college football. Not a topic I want to touch, he says. Taysom Hill taking first-team reps over Trevor Siemian, as he should, because Simeon's just been awful since Jameis Winston got hurt. Hockey news. We talked about the Canadians cleaning house with firing Mark Bergevin. The owner says we need a fresh start. Jeff Molson wants to hit the reset button after clearing out the front office. And someone that they're eyeing for their general manager is Danny Breery, former Habs and Flyers player, is very high up on the list for the Canadians for the GM position. Boston forward Jake DeBrusk requests a trade. He wanted to be moved this past weekend, apparently, and Boston will try to affiliate the deal. Jim Harbaugh says that his player, Aiden Hutchinson, should go first overall. He says if there's a better player that's draft eligible than Aiden Hutchinson, I haven't seen him, he says. Obviously supporting his player big time. And he's going to be a top pick in the draft next year. He is the next great young pass rusher. And I don't know if he's going to be as good as Chase Young and the Bosas and Myles Garrett, but he's going to be in the conversation. And TJ Watt, you can't disclude him. Spencer Rattler leaving Oklahoma. Yet another transfer out of Oklahoma after Lincoln Riley walks out the door. Kemba Walker out of the Knicks rotation, as I alluded to earlier in the NBA segment. Tom Thibodeau says that Alec Burks will be the Knicks point guard going forward. The Knicks took a chance with Kemba, but his health and his deterioration and regression ultimately hurt him. At least the Knicks didn't massively overpay Kemba Walker. The old front office would have. The college basketball 8P poll came out. New number one, as I said on the show yesterday, was going to be Duke. Because Duke beat Gonzaga, they deserve to be number one. And they're undefeated. And 2 through 5 is Purdue, Gonzaga, Baylor, UCLA. 6 through 10, Villanova, Texas, Kansas, Kentucky, Arkansas. 11 through 15, Arizona, BYU, Tennessee, Florida, Houston. 16 through 20, Alabama, Connecticut, Memphis, Iowa State, USC. 21 through 25, Auburn, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Seton Hall. So that's your AP poll for the week. The Canucks broadcaster reportedly said he hated Brad Marchand during the game 2 nights ago with the 2-point game. Yikes. And then some non-sports news. Chicago cancels more Broadway shows after more breakthrough COVID-19 cases. And then we talked about the Twitter CEO, Jack Dorsey, resigning. And apparently there's a replacement. And his replacement will be Parag Agrawal. As he was the Twitter CTO, now he'll be the Twitter CEO. And then that's it for news and notes for today. Okay, now we're going to do Hit or Miss 2020 NBA Draft Edition. Where I'll go through the 2020 NBA Draft and say hit or miss on some of these draft picks. All right. This is just the first round, by the way. Number 1, Anthony Edwards, Minnesota Timberwolves. That's a hit. He really has taken that next step in year number 2. James Wiseman, Warriors, miss. He hasn't played a game yet this year, and he's been hurt so much, despite the Warriors being 18-2 this year. Number 3, LaMelo Ball, hit. This guy's going to be an all-star point guard one day, and he's just such a joy to watch. 4, Bulls, Patrick Williams. This is a tough one because he got hurt. But I'm going to say miss, unfortunately, because he's hurt, and the Bulls haven't been this... I mean, I don't want to say they haven't really been the same without him. They've missed him. But... you know what? I'm going to change that to a hit because they really haven't been the same without him. And I just don't think that the Bulls really... I just don't know if he'll be as good as they think. But that's where the case for miss comes in. But I'm going to say hit. All right, the Cleveland Cavaliers, Isaac Okoro. Okoro... as of now, I would say Isaac Okoro is a miss. He's somebody for me that just needs to improve on some things. And it's a Cavs team that I think can't really afford some misses. And Okoro, to me, it really hasn't jumped out yet. Yeah, 7.7 points per game. Next up, Onyeka Okongwu, miss. He's a bench player for the Hawks. The Pistons, Killian Hayes, miss. He really hasn't been as good as advertised yet. Knicks, Obi Toppin. You know what? I'm going to give this one a hit because I think that he's improved tremendously from year 1 to year 2. I think the Knicks are going to use him more. But yeah, I think he's a hit, and I think he had a good impact on them in the playoffs. Next up, Denny Avdija, the Wizards. I'm going to say a hit. He's somebody that needs to work on some things, but he showed some flashes. Phoenix Suns at 10, Jalen Smith, miss. That's like the one spot that in their roster that could be improved. The San Antonio Spurs at 11, Devin Vassell. I give it a hit. Devin Vassal's been really good this year. Good three-point shooter. Good wing player for San Antonio. I'll give that a hit. This is an easy hit. Sacramento Kings, Tyrese Halliburton. He is so good. And you know the Suns and all these teams are regretting that one. The Pelicans at 13. Kyra Lewis Jr. For it's a miss. The Pelicans are really bad. And Lewis, to me, hasn't made that jump yet that the Pelicans were hoping for. Next up, the Boston Celtics, Aaron Nesmith. Miss. He's just a bad shooter. And really hasn't had a positive impact for the Celtics. The Magic got 15. Cole Anthony, I'd give that a hit. Cole Anthony hasn't playing tremendous this year. And the Magic look like they have a point guard. Next up, Isaiah Stewart for the Pistons. I'd give this a hit for the time being, despite the LeBron James stuff. He's a good guy to have in the paint. He can rebound. Next up with the Thunder, Aleksej Pokusevski. It's a miss. I think they hyped this guy too much. Personally, if you ask me. And he hasn't made the jump that the Thunder were expecting so far. Next up, the Dallas Mavericks, Josh Green. I would say that's a miss. They thought he was going to be a good three-point shooter. Nope. Next up, Pistons, Sadiq Bey. I give this a hit. The Pistons, I think, have done well outside of Killian Tilly, ironically enough. But, Killian Hayes. And averaging double digits, and the three-point shooting isn't great, but he's somebody that I think that is trending up. The Miami Heat, Precious Achiuwa. I give that a hit because it helped them land Kyle Lowry. Next up, Tyrese Maxey for Philly. I give this a hit. He's been tremendous this season. 18 a game. Wow, this is a good hit for the Philadelphia 76ers. 22, Zeke Naji. Taken by the Nuggets. Improving player. I give this a hit. Good role player. Next up with the Timberwolves, Leonardo Bomaro. Miss. He really hasn't seen much playing time in the league. Next up, RJ Hampton. He was on Denver, now he's on Orlando. I'd give this a hit for Denver because it helped them land Aaron Gordon. And I give this sort of a miss in terms of picking the asset from an Orlando standpoint. And then back to Achiuwa for a second, talking about picking the asset from in a trade. I give that a miss for the Raptors, but a hit for the teams that drafted him because it helped them land stars. Knicks at 25, Emmanuel Quickley, I'd say a hit. He really has helped them the last couple seasons. Good three-point shooter. Very good defensive player. Just a perfect Knicks type of player, too. Next up, Peyton Pritchard. I say that's a hit. He hasn't been great this season because he hasn't seen the playing time, but when he plays hard and could play pretty well at times. Next up, Udoka Azubuike. I give this a miss. He really hasn't played. Jaden McDaniels. From the Timberwolves. At the time being, it's a miss. He doesn't shoot well from three. Doesn't shoot well in general. Next up, the Toronto Raptors. Malachi Flynn. Miss. He really hasn't done much for them. And then how about this one? Desmond Bane. I say that's a hit for Memphis. He's improved on his game. Just a really good player for the Grizzlies, averaging over 15 points a game. And he's a good shooter as well. So I'd say that's a big-time hit for Memphis. All right, last but not least, my best bet of the day. Brought to you by FanDuel. I think I gave it away earlier. I am going to take a college basketball game and I'm going to lay 2 units on it because I feel pretty darn strong about it. And that game is Florida State getting 11 at Purdue. Big game on national TV. Big Ten ACC Challenge. Florida State, I think, is better than what they showed. I love Leonard Hamilton teams as underdogs like this. So I'm going to do it. And I think I give them a chance of potentially winning this game outright, too. I'm not going to call for the outright upset on the show. I just think that this is a single-digit game either way. So Florida State plus 11, laying 2 units on it against Purdue. So there you have it for today's show. I'll be back tomorrow recapping everything from tonight and looking ahead to tomorrow. Masked Singer Group A finale. So that's something to look forward to. So that would be, I don't think it's Queen of Hearts. I think it's going to be the Bull and, it's Bull and Skunk. So one of those guys are going home tonight. All right, so I hope you guys have a great day, everyone. I meant to say tomorrow night. Oh, well. So, yeah, have a good day, everyone.